Alright, I had a request for number 67 off of page 56 off the homework, and we're going to take a look at this. School is adding an eating section on the side of the school, and we'll talk about little parts of it. You can see the picture there. You can go back and rewind it if you need to. But what we have is we have a side of the school that is 70 feet, and we're going to take a look at that here in just a little bit, but that's going to have bearing on our problem. And then you're creating this eating section, this rectangle on the side of the school. This side is X and this side is X because they're the same length, and we don't know what that is, but the picture itself tells us that. This side is 120 minus 2x because you have 120 feet to make the fence all the way around. And if you have 120 feet, if this is X and this is X, that's two of them. This other side has to be 120 minus the two x's. So the first part of the problem, part A, says to find an equation for the area. Well, area in a rectangle is equal to length times width, so you do x times 120 minus 2x. When you do that, that's going to give you something you can distribute, which is 120x minus 2x squared. That's an equation for our area. In this problem, though, they tell us that the school wants this area to be 1,500 square feet. That's what they want it to be. They're trying to create that much space for the young children to eat outside. So, what you have to do now is you plug in 1,500 for the area. That's what it is. That's what it equals. That's what they want it to equal. So you plug it in, and now you're going to take this and you're going to solve this. There's really two ways you can look at this. First of all, you could add 2x squared over to the left-hand side, subtract 120x. When you do that, you'll have that plus 1,500, that positive 1,500 still sitting there, equal to 0 now. And you could try to factor it. It's not going to work. Or you could do two things. You could take it exactly like it looks right now and enter it into the quadratic formula, or you could divide everything by 2, and when you do that you get x squared minus 60x plus 750 equal to 0 still, because 0 divided by 2 is still 0. And you could do the quadratic formula now, or completing the square, because this is x squared and this is divisible by 2. I think completing the square would probably be easier, so that's what I'm going to look at. So if I move the 750 over to the other side, I'm going to try to make the left-hand side be a perfect square. If I take 60 divided by 2 and square it, you get 30 squared. 30 squared is going to be 900, is what you add to both sides. On the left, this makes this x minus 30 squared a perfect square. On the right, negative 750 plus 900 is going to be 150. So then you take the square root on both sides. You get x minus 30 equals the square root plus or minus the square root of 150. You don't want to try to simplify this radical, because remember, we are talking about this distance for this school, so you don't want to try to simplify that. You just want to add the 30 over to the other side and do 30 plus or minus the square root of 150. So you're going to have two answers here. If you take your calculator, and I'm going to use the one that's on my iPad here, and you do the square root of 150, you get 12.247. Because the way this calculator works, I'm going to try and see if it'll add 30 to that. Let's see. And it does, 42.25. Sometimes the calculator does some weird things on that iPad for some reason. Then we're going to do the opposite of that. So this was the one where we'll have to kind of know that 12.25 was my square root of 150. Sorry about that. And that's going to be minus that from 30. So if we take 30 minus 12.25, we get 17.75. That is our other answer. So you got two answers. The problem is one of these is not going to work, and that's where I told you that this 70 was going to come into play. Because if you plug in 17.25 here, or 75 here, and 17.75 here, this side right here is going to be too long, because you're going to have 120 minus that 2 times 7.25. So if you do 120 minus the 2 times 17.75, you know, it was 84.5. So this side right here would be too long. It would be longer than the side of the building, and you can't have that. You can't have a side of the fence be longer than the side of the building. You're trying to use the building for one side. So the only answer that would work would be this guy right here, 42.25. So 42.25 would be my x, so that would be my length here, 42.25 feet right here. And then 120 minus the 2 times 42.25 would give me 35.5 for my width here. So this side's going to be the longer side, the length. This is going to be the width down here. That would be the dimensions of my school, or my eating section outside the school, excuse me.